All right, good afternoon, dear listeners. You're listening to the Lament of Hope blog and podcast. I'm really excited today because I'm talking with Jessica Steen. Um, I really enjoyed her work in Flashpoint. Actually, my husband, I just recently wrapped up the series. If you haven't seen it, it's older at this point in the sense that it's not super new. Um, but it's a Canadian series and it really deals with um, police that are in special task forces. And Jessica played Donna, who's just a really, I think, complex and interesting character. And she's also in Heartland now. You might have seen her in that. She's been in several movies. Um, and I wanted to talk to her today, just get to know more about her and her life. Um, just to get started, I wanted to ask you, what do you think's the hardest role you've played in the sense of being able to emotionally connect to the character? Like on a personal level? What do you think's been the hardest to kind of portray personally?
Hmm. Well, for different reasons, I guess. Like I struggled with I was on a series called Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, and it was quite it was a dark future, and I struggled with that. I struggled with post-apocalyptic
Hmm.
um um dark. Yeah, I struggle with things that are dark, I think. I don't love to live in that space, you
Hmm.
know. I would doing heavy material, I can see if it's a contained thing, but if it's a prolonged
Hmm.
job where I'm going to live, I mean, I would have trouble. I would have to say I would have trouble with procedural,
Hmm.
where like
Yeah.
SVU or um, um, things like that. I don't I don't want really to contribute in
Hmm.
that fashion, and I don't want to live in that headspace. Um, so I appreciate humor, and I appreciate family, and I appreciate um, um, you know things that have resolution other than someone going to jail or being killed. you know. So yeah, I think sometimes I don't engage in that kind of material in my life.
Okay.
Um, So that I would say.
It's interesting because there are actors I've talked to who seem to love that because they can immerse
Yeah.
themselves into something that's so different than them, and just, kind of just really explore the more dark side of humanity at a deeper level.
Mm.
Um, what is it that irks you about it or causes you angst that you don't enjoy it very much?
I think we have a propensity to go there. We have a natural curiosity, and when there's an accident on the road, everybody's
Yeah.
rubbernecking and the traffic slows down. I've always thought that they should have, like the first on the scene should have a huge screen that like like a fold out, I don't know, like those changing screens or whatever, but made
Yeah.
of mesh or whatever, that they would put up in front of the accident so
Hmm.
that people don't get to look and go, thank God that's not me. I they just get on,
Yeah.
deal with the situation, and everybody keep, I don't know, I think, yeah, we always want to look at, you know
Hmm.
other people's suffering or darkness. Like I'm sort of amazed at times when my family or friends watch SVU, and I'm like, why do you want, or that the women's channel, the women's network
Yeah.
focuses on who stole my baby, all these dark or rape or next door creepy neighbors, and I'm like, ugh, women don't need to focus on that. There's enough of that in real life. I
Yeah.
mean, all you have to do is turn on the news. I don't want to be entertained by the
Hmm.
dark side of human nature, which I think is pretty prevalent. I mean, we teach children how to share, how to be nice, how to be polite, how to,
Yeah.
play well with others, because generally speaking, humans need to be taught those things
Yeah.
because mine, you know, so uh, I don't know. In terms of contributing to the fabric of culture and society, my propensity is always towards humor and family or things that get resolved or, yeah, feel good stuff. I have friends, I have friends who, were watching the news. I'm like, you can't go to sleep having watched,
Yeah.
I don't even know why it's on at 11 o'clock. That's cruel. Like people watching terrible, terrible things all around the world or even in their back crash and four die, the family. I'm like, oh my God, you want to go to sleep like that? I was
Yeah.
like, watch Heartland. You'll all the rolling hills and the horses and things look nice and everything wraps up and and I have friends who have converted to that.
Was was Flashpoint hard for you though? Because those episodes were hard. I mean, what I loved about
There were
Flashpoint is
some,
that
yeah.
it is, for me, my husband and I could watch it, and I didn't go to bed feeling like, oh my gosh, I've just seen all this gruesome stuff and it just sticks in your head and
Right.
that's what you remember. It was so story led and full. But I was really hard episodes, and some episodes I'm like, I know that kind of person, or I've had that kind of person in my family, and it's like it hits home really hard, and some of them don't end well at all. I mean, which is
Yeah.
realistic, but how was that for you having to
I say
get
that, like, that show and NCIS, both which I had sort of dabblings in both of those shows, and both of those shows I appreciated because they focused on the personal lives of the people that are, you know, dealing with all this drama.
Yeah,
And I liked the swath of characters. Like it didn't focus only on certain demographics. It's sort of everybody, and terrible things happen to everyone, and
yeah,
people find themselves in very compromised and difficult and um, unfamiliar territory and end up doing things, and that's what I liked about Flashpoint. It was like it's the story of somebody falling off track and ending up in this desperate moment, and stuff like that. Like I like the storylines. I like where they focused um,
yeah.
the episodes, and so some are more gruesome than others and are harder, but uh, and when I had to kill someone, yeah, so it's difficult. But I like that you're right, that the story, that the people are focused on and how it
Yeah.
affects. Yeah, so it felt there's something about. Oh shoot! Nope, nope, no. Um, sorry. I literally so I had a knee replacement in September, and I have been racing to PT and train. I'm like
Oh
it's
wow.
yeah, it's a little bit behind and very stiff. So I've been literally anyway, boring. But um yeah. So as far as cop shows go, as far as procedurals or that world of what those people have to deal with every day, which whew, you know, hospitals. I walk into a hospital, I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
this is any the people that work in these jobs, first responders and hospital care workers and people, fire. I'm just blown away. I'm blown away that those are the people that show up at these
Yeah.
worst moments, um, and dive right in and make a difference with and are so generally kind and decent and keep their humanity. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, your character in Flashpoint is very calm most of the time. I mean, you do have this one episode, not, I don't want to give spoilers to people, but there is this one episode when you are more emotional and get more emotionally invested um into what's going on. But do you think, like, in real life, are you typically like that? Like, if something hard happens, is your first response more calm and collected, or do you find that you're more easily, like, emotionally driven?
I find that um, it depends what the situation is, who I'm with, and I will. I think I'm definitely better in chaos. Like when something is going down, I can lock in, and especially if other people are going up.
Yeah.
and getting freaked out, I will lock in and sink in and solve. Um, I was driving through Yosemite Park, and there was an act like the car right in front of me.
Oh,
There was a
wow.
bunch of motorcycle people coming around the corner, big bikes, two people on each one, and they hit some gravel or whatever and slid. And this person drove right over one of the people, and all the airbags went off, and these people were screaming on the road. And it was like, picked up my phone, called 911 immediately, explained the whole situation. I swear that whole situation, cars backed up for 2 miles, was over in an hour. I couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't
Hmm.
anyway, but those kinds of situations, I do kind of, yeah, I think I'm not bad in a, an emergency or when somebody is having a difficult moment. Yep.
What do you think's been like a difficult moment for you to keep cool and collected personally?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I think breakups, like I've had a couple of really big breakups that have really flattened me for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Those, and I have lost my cheese, slid off the cracker, and I went, yeah, it was, yeah, I think those are probably the hardest. Um, some deaths that I've had, and but uh, I don't struggle with being emotional. Obviously, I'm an actor, so you keep the toolbox, all the things. Yeah, so I mean, I have ways to vent it, and I have a lot of really great people in my life that I go to when I'm struggling. Yeah, and I have really good friends and family that, yeah, yeah, good support. And I've now at this age developed good self-parenting skills to
Yeah.
see something, feel something coming on. I'm like, okay, I know this feeling, I know what's happening. And this is what I need to do. And yeah, yeah.
Is there, when you're mentioning family, is there like someone in your family you look up to? You want to be more like?
Um, um, no, not really. I mean, I love every single member of my family for all that they are, and they are all part of this mosaic of hilarity and fabulousness, and I wouldn't change a thing about them. But would I want to be them or be more like them? um no, I'm good with my life. Like I'm pretty good with where I'm at, and I live um t- yeah, I'm content.
Hmm. Have you
Yeah.
always been that way, or you think that's something you've grown in?
Grown into, for sure. I think, when you're, I was thinking the other day that, when you're young and you're vulnerable as you're
Yeah.
growing into and towards things, you're growing into your body, you're learning things, you're making friends, your knowledge, your career, you're growing towards everything. And there's competition, and there's like, you're getting, you're, I don't know, you're strengthening towards life. And as you get older, uh, you're literally losing things. More and more things get taken. Gradually you're losing things. You lose relationships, you lose people, and you lose your careers, or you change, or like your body starts to glasses on, whatever. It's like the things that you grew into, and this is me now, I am this, and this is how I identify and whatever. And then as you age, it's like, oh, and then you're losing friends, and you're losing. And so, like, you're constantly having to get more vulnerable, right? You do get more vulnerable as you get older because you can't do necessarily all the things you used to do. But there
Yeah.
has to be, I mean, there's a struggle, or there's an attempt to be graceful or wise about it and try to ease into it and to appreciate that you had those things and you don't have to keep them all. And now it's somebody else's turn to have those things. Um, um, but it's hard, you know. I mean, it is hard to let go of things and to get more vulnerable. Yeah, you see it in your parents or your grandparents, or you know what I mean. Like yeah, you gotta try and age gracefully
Yeah.
and be grateful that you had certain things and be easy about letting them go. Yeah.
What do you think's been like the hardest thing to let go? Because I know for me personally, I think relationships, people, is the hardest thing for me. Um, because it kind of brings out all your insecurities at the same time.
Mm.
Because I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but it's like you feel like you sometimes lose someone because of you. Not always correct, but sometimes that's how it feels that the person's. But then a lot of times, it's out of your control. Um, what for you do you think is the hardest thing to lose in life that you're starting to? Maybe you've lost it enough times that it doesn't hurt as badly as it used to, or what do you think? What would you say to that?
I would say if if you're lucky to live a long time, right? Lucky. Something didn't take you and whatever. You've the fortune of living a long time that your well of sorrow will deepen and it will fill and fill. I mean, it's inevitable
Yeah,
that you're going to get more and more loss. That's all there is to it. People will die or leave your life. There are friends. There's groups of friends and times when I thought, this is my posse forever. This is my chosen family. This is it. We will all die together. And
yeah,
how many times that happens, and you evolve, and your priorities change, and especially if you're single or you don't have children, or you're moving towards different people and then you come back together, some of them. But yeah, so I think um the hardest thing, like your identity changes also.
yeah,
So the way you see yourself in your 20s or your 30s or even your 40s is so different. And I think one of the you know yes, you will you lose people, and that is incredibly hard. And how you grieve and how you process sorrow and where you put it and how you um live with it um
yeah,
is a talent, a muscle. It's something that really requires attention and ease and grace.
yeah,
um but I think, and then personally, I think one of the things I've struggled with is my body changing, menopause, and this
yeah.
my knees, and like the glasses, and it's fatter and whatever. It's like, am I going to really? Yeah, and that's another decision. Am I going to really fight this, or am I just going to be, all right? This is this now, and I've got to have some ease and grace around it.
Do you
But it
worry?
changes your identity for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you worry? Because, I mean, especially in your industry, it's pretty. I mean, and I could be wrong because I'm not an actor, but it seems like the acting industry is really harsh on aging. There's just not as much available to you, or if there is, it's very selective. It's no longer really based on your talent. It's more of, do you look the part? Does it fit exactly, the image we have? Um, like, is that something you worry about, or something that you're at peace with if one day you're not acting as much as you used to, or
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, Heartland is a fluke. Heartland, I don't mean like it hasn't earned its place, but I'm saying, how often do shows go 18 years? Like, and I auditioned as a guest star,
yeah,
and it's turned into this thing, right? That never happens. Do I actually at this point in my life get cast that often? No. I audition a lot. I don't get cast. So you're constantly putting yourself out there, and you have to come to terms with the fact that A, there's a ton of people up for the same
Yeah.
part. Um, and and part of me, my parents were both in the business, and I was raised to sort of keep the business at arm's length
Hmm.
at all times. It can't be everything I am, because um, it can eat you up. It can redirect your sense of self. It can, so
Yeah.
there I think, I don't know, but I suspect that if I had been more comfortable or more willing to wear shorter skirts when I went to auditions, wear my hair down and, curled and whatever. And, I showed a friend an audition that I just did, and she said, it's mostly men casting and you have to wear your hair down. I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm playing a woman in a house coat. It says I have no makeup on. She said, that doesn't matter. That's just like what they say, but they actually, you have to still try and look, with your hair down. I was like, well, all right. So do I care? Do I need? I don't know. I personally, I still can't do my own hair. I have a friend. She said, "What self-respecting woman in their 50s can't do their hair?" I'm like, me. I can do a ponytail and I can put it in a clip, and that's about it. I can't do
Yeah.
my hair. I
I
used
get
to
it.
struggle with big rollers and stuff. I was like, oh my God. And you know, but now I don't really, I don't really do that. At Heartland, when they do my hair, or whatever, and I have an audition, well, that's great, great timing. And I'll try and time auditions when I'm at work so that this is all done. And I have, an actor friend, a castmate to read with me, but I don't know. I, I probably could, should, would have, if I had tried harder. But I sort of also feel like this is, I feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
I feel like it's enough. And I feel like if I'm doing if I watch the audition and go, yeah, I buy that, I'll send it. And even if there's a hair stick, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But everybody does it differently. And my mom, when I was little and needed pocket money, and of course this was an easy, because all our family friends were in the business. She's like, I'm not taking you. So if you're doing it, you're doing it on your own, because I don't want you to do it. I don't want you to be an actor.
Hmm.
And so um, I did it all myself. And then
Hmm.
as soon as I finished high school, I had to pay bills. So I got into it
Yeah.
as a business instead of just sort of pocket money hobby style. Um, I think for me, it's been crucial to do what I'm do, push myself, but not push myself into places uh, that I think women need to work on.
Hmm.
By not dollying up all the time and not serving up. I don't know. I sort of feel like
Yeah.
we
No,
need we try, like, yeah.
well, that's interesting. What do you think is the hardest thing about being a woman now? Because I mean, it seems to me that, women, there's a lot of expectations on what women ought to be like or look like. Um, I think especially just with entertainment and social media. I mean, there's just so many options, a lot of options, that are overwhelming. Um, I mean, what do you think about like the, do you find that the time we're living in, it's hard to just be a woman?
I'm extremely frustrated. I'm extremely frustrated, but at the same time, like the Planned Parenthood and, abortion rights in the States, and that I feel like I feel like I can't wrap my head around the fact that we're going backwards, and that women are losing the freedom to choose what they want to do with their lives. I mean, you know, it infuriates me. At the same time, it's not my fight anymore.
Hmm.
That's not my fight anymore. It would have been my fight when I was premenopause. Or, like, I mean, that was that.
Sure.
And, but, uh, you know, I feel for young women. I feel for young women. I feel like, you know, the phone has become a deadly influencer, and porn is just like, do people do people know how to, like, what's the intimacy, what's the creativity about being intimate together, and can you see past the things you've seen? And I don't know, like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I I feel for young people. um but it's almost like when, I moved to Los Angeles in my 20s, and Los Angeles was Los Angeles in my 20s, and I was like, yay, we're here. And I moved there to do a series, and it was all like young people, and so we were all buddies, we were all hanging, like, that's what LA was at that time. Over the course of the 30 years that I lived there, I was like, this city has changed. I can't, it's too, it's like, no, I'm old. I'm too old for this town at this point. And there's the people that arrive now in their 20s are like, some LA. There's like, scooters all over the streets, and there's whatever. So all that to say, you know, at every stage of your life, it is where you're at, and the world is what it is right now for young people, and this is the landscape they're navigating.
Yeah.
Um and I am really, really happy, or feel fortunate, that I'm of an era, like, I was born in 1965, which is, like, I think the first or the last. It's right on the cusp of the boomers and into,
Yeah.
and I I love that, you know, I'd get on my bike, and I had a dime taped to the underside of my seat if I got lost, and I could make a phone call and call my mom and tell her where I am or whatever. And that I know we walked to school.
Yeah.
We came, like, we had so much freedom, and the phone was something at home. And then, there's all these
Yeah.
shenanigans that happen when you're trying to meet up with people, and, oh, I didn't get your call, and phone machines and all the way. I don't know. I loved the independence and the privacy, and the fact that, you could get off, like, now it's impossible to get off the grid. It's
Yeah.
impossible to have a quiet day where business doesn't affect, can't enter,
Yeah.
you know
I
yeah.
agree.
So yeah, those of us who know what a party line, or what, like, the phone cord that goes all around the house, and
Yeah.
sitting with
Yeah.
my headphones on, listening to a record, and going in and just changing this, putting it back on the song. And I don't know, there's, like, it's campy, but it was, everybody would say life is simpler. And
Well,
people will say that about this era too, I'm sure, right?
w-
With
yeah,
AI and,
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you're reminding me a little bit. I know that, I don't know if you've read Wendell Berry at all, his essays on, but he seems to really talk a lot about like nature and the beauty of going back
mm,
to simple
mm,
community, where it's just,
mm,
it's your community, you're investing in your community, you know how to
mm,
survive in the wild.
mm,
Like now, I mean, nobody
mm,
really knows how. I mean, we don't, I mean, I don't know, it's shameful to say, but I don't know how to build a fire. So like if technically I was out
mm,
somewhere, I mean, so it's like, but I know
mm,
you seem to have a real big heart for nature, for
mm.
preserving wildlife and the environment. Um, is that, what kind of future do you see in that, in the environment and in being able to, why is that a passion for you to cultivate it? Because it's interesting you mentioned, and it's not your fight what's going on right now, the issues that women are facing, but nature is. And so I'm interested to
Mhm.
see, what your perspective is on that.
And when I say it's not my fight, it's not that I don't sign all the petitions that come my way and donate.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It I mean, it's definitely all of our fight, and voting, but it
Well, I
literally
guess
is like,
making, I think, and forgive me, you making it your passion. You know how some people like that's their
right.
life.
Yeah,
That's
like
what I
no,
think I
but
meant.
part of it, part of it is I'm literally like, I can't even. I'm so furious that this is happening, and I feel very helpless. So I don't even know how to take up this fight. Anyway, as far as nature goes, um, um, I was fortunate that my family, my elders, um, submerged me in uh, nature.
Hmm.
Um, and so, you know, and my school, like I remember very distinctly in my junior school that we went over in Toronto, we went over to the island, and there was an island school, and you went and stayed the week there, and bunk beds and mess hall
Oh,
and
wow.
whatever. But we put on hip waders. I was in grade 5. Put on hip waders, and we walked into a marshy pondy thing, right? And we took little samples of the water, and then
Yeah.
we went back and we put it under a microscope. And you're like, it's like Horton Hears a Who. It's like, what? All that's going on in there? And then you like, talk about who, and then we um put a little net up, and we caught birds, and we put little bands on them. And my aunt is a big birder. Everybody in
Yeah.
my family, like whether it's flowers or birds, and we would be up north, and my grandfather knew all the birds and seeds, and my dad's a huge, so you know um the I'm not religious. I think nature is the most spectacular, magical, spiritual
Hmm.
church there is.
Hmm.
The the way that the web of life weaves together, and how everybody affects everybody, and how it's all is the template that humans could strive to become part of. It's very difficult for me to watch what's happening to the oceans. I'm in, or logging. I just, part of me is almost not a bit defeated, because I do feel that you know humans are so, there's a lot of design flaws, and
Hmm.
I don't feel I'm sorry, I don't feel terribly hopeful, um, because I think the design flaws are our downfall. And so, in a way, it's not that I'm not participating, it's not that I'm not recycling, or, you know,
Sure. Yeah.
but honestly, the fact that there are a lot of people in cities that are afraid of spiders, or
Yeah.
don't know where water comes from, or like terrified of bugs, ew, but I'm like dirt and ew, like I just can't believe it that you're so removed from what
Yeah.
the planet provides, and how it works, and why you need anything more magical than watching flowers and insects create food.
Hmm.
Anyway, whatever.
Wait, it's interesting because you're right, nature is, so beautiful and there's a peace to it too. There's a
Mm,
quietness and a stillness that we
mm,
don't really have. We
mm.
don't have at all in life. And with the busyness that we have and it's always going and going and going. Um, I was gonna ask kind of as a follow-up to what you said earlier. You said you didn't have a religion. I wanted to ask, is there a reason for that? Or for you, do you just find that you find your sense of worship in nature or in watching the human experience? Or for you, like, why is religion not something that you're super interested in or wanting to pursue?
Um, it's a very dangerous topic to get into, I guess, because it's heated for a lot of people. But I guess
Yeah.
um what I find, I wasn't raised with any.
Yeah.
That's probably the best answer, is that my great grandfather was a missionary in China, but my grandfather it didn't hold for him.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so my mom's side of the family and my dad's side, neither were religious. So I grew
Yeah.
up with no religion, but uh, I I have a strong sense of morality, and I
Okay.
have a strong sense of individual um, responsibility to kindness and
Yeah.
to manners and to respect for others, and that's on me, and to participate and learn to be with others and to communicate better and to be, so it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Great stories, great stories, but it doesn't track for me.
Hmm.
It doesn't sort of track the great moral ethical stories that can help people learn to get along better. But in terms of like, this really happened, and if it was written by men 300 years after, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, and of course I find there's a lot of hypocrisy that
Yeah.
people who call themselves one thing and in the Lord, I'm like, but this planet was made by your Lord, and yet you're not taking care of it. You don't show it respect, or you don't, I mean, if everybody's made in the image of God, then where's your kindness towards the people that don't believe that? Anyway, with that kind of thing,
Yeah.
it just doesn't hold water for me.
Yeah.
you know there is nothing, zero things that will bring me to tears because of its beauty and its like connection to than lying in the bottom of a canoe on a lake, and just like rocking
Yeah.
in the water and like looking at the sky and listening to the birds, and then the day starts to quiet down, and all the birds and the insects all get quiet, and the water gets so still, and you can see to the bottom, and you see all the fish and the things. I just like, that's God to me. Like, that's goddess. That's I can't imagine anything. I bet man cannot make a thing that's more beautiful than that to me.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you. I mean, I've really enjoyed this interview too. You're so personable. Sometimes you can tell if a conversation how it's gonna go based on, what kind of things people like to talk about, but you're very open and honest, and I really appreciate that because that's the
Oh,
point of these
thanks.
interviews is just to be, it's like a
Fun to
coffee
chat with
shop,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I wanted to, just to close the segment out, did you have like any upcoming projects or anything you want to keep people on the radar?
Um, well, you know, uh, partially, if you're auditioning a ton and you're not getting you're not getting anything, you want to
Yeah,
make stuff, right? You want to make what you want to do.
which is sometimes
So,
better.
well, it's awesome because I have brilliant friends, and we're all collaborating, and so there's a podcast called Stream Queen, and it's on every Spotify, and it's on Audible. It's on everything. Stream
Yeah.
Queen, and Haley Tyson wrote and directed. And so we're gonna make that. We've done it. The podcast was really fun, and it's really an interesting thing to do an audio staged show.
Oh yeah.
So and then that's just sort of the precursor to shooting it, and we have shot a couple of scenes of it, and it's really coming together. My other friends we're writing. There's a bunch of actors here in Vancouver, and we're like coming together, and we have a friend who's also an actress writing it. It's really fun. Um, sort of a single seniors
Hmm.
retirement place. So, you know, uh, that's going to be a lot of fun. We are going back to Heartland, which is awesome. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm doing a little part on Mayor of Kingstown.
Okay.
Um, yeah, a waitress
Wow.
and a really fun diner. Yeah, on Mayor of Kingstown. Yeah,
And
which that's
oh,
a
I was
heavy
just,
show.
yeah. I was going to say
Mhm.
too, if people want to keep up to date on this, your website seems pretty up to date. Is that where people
I
can go
have
for?
the it's just the best.
It's really good.
And
Yeah.
Carla, and I mean, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have very very kind. Yeah, actually, I need to get in touch with them and say hello. Yeah, they're awesome and very generous with their time and talents.
Well, listeners, again, you were listening to Jessica, and I'm going to put a link to her website. And yes, she's right that it's really up to date. You can see interviews on there, her bio's on there. There's a lot of info. So anything new, you'll see on there. But Jessica, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this
Thank
conversation.
you. I really appreciate you being in touch and having a good, nice conversation with you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Take care. You too. You too.
Bye.